If you've ever heard of the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California, you probably already have a very specific image in your head. I mean, it's this sprawling, chaotic structure that's known just as much for its ghostly legends as its incredible architectural beauty. Well, today in this explainer, we're going to look past those tall tales to dig directly into the actual historical evidence. So you likely know the legendary story, right? A grieving widow, haunted by ghosts, builds this bizarre labyrinth to evade their wrath. The tale goes that she truly believed continuous construction was the absolute only thing keeping her safe from spirits. It's an incredibly compelling narrative. It's exactly the kind of ghost story that completely captures the public's imagination. But what if everything you think you know is wrong? What if the real story of Sarah Winchester is far more grounded and, honestly, maybe even more fascinating? Legend has it that a Boston medium gave Sarah a chilling warning, telling her, "You can never stop building the house. If you continue building, you will live. Stop and you will die." According to popular myth, she was supposedly cursed by the spirits of everyone killed by her famous rifles, and to confuse these vengeful spirits, Sarah supposedly kept hammers swinging 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for literally decades. And the physical result of that supposed curse is a stunning Queen Anne Victorian mansion that looks kind of like a tiered wedding cake. From the outside, the house is just a breathtaking display of Victorian aesthetic. We're talking intricate spindlework, scalloped shingles, and gorgeous stained glass. It is a total masterpiece of craftsmanship that entirely masks the chaotic reputation of the woman who built it. Part 1. A fortune built on firearms. Now, you can't fund 38 years of nonstop construction without bottomless resources. The Winchester rifle was an incredibly effective tool that played a huge role in westward expansion, generating a massive fortune with every single bullet sold. Because it was lightweight and reliable, it was purchased heavily by the military, settlers, and native tribes alike, quickly becoming one of the most profitable manufactured goods of the entire 19th century. When her husband William died in 1881, Sarah inherited a $20 million estate and an astonishing daily income of $1,000. To put that into perspective, that is roughly equal to $21,000 every single day in today's money. Every day, whether she actively worked or not, this massive sum just poured into her accounts. It was a level of wealth that afforded her absolute, total freedom from the standard constraints placed on women of her era. But here's the crucial point. This staggering wealth was matched by profound tragedy, leaving Sarah completely autonomous and seeking a fresh start in the Santa Clara Valley. She tragically lost her only daughter Annie as an infant, and 15 years later, she lost her husband to tuberculosis. With no immediate family left and total financial independence, she left Connecticut behind, bought an 8-room farmhouse in California, and simply began to build. Part 2. Building without a blueprint. That boundless wealth resulted in the architectural madness we recognize today. She really did build 24 hours a day, but she never had a master blueprint. By directing the work entirely herself, she created an eventual layout of 161 rooms, 47 grand fireplaces, 10,000 window panes, and of course, those famous oddities, like doors that open into solid brick walls and staircases that hilariously dead-end straight into the ceiling above. But why did she do this? Well, because she used an additive building method over 38 years, just constantly attaching new spaces onto old ones. Hallways inevitably turned at odd angles, and completely illogical spaces emerged totally organically. Think about it. If you want to add a new wing to an existing house, but you don't redesign the interior to match, you end up blocking old windows and cutting off old staircases. The strange features weren't necessarily traps for ghosts, they were just the natural byproduct of building nonstop without a plan. Actually, the Society of Actuaries brilliantly compared her mansion to a company's poorly planned legacy IT system, where you just keep adding new functions without an overall strategy. Think about a massive corporate database where a new software patch is just layered over an old one, over and over for decades. Eventually, you get reports that go nowhere and totally conflicting data, simply because the system was never overhauled, just continuously expanded. Just like a data warehouse adding to corporate chaos without a master plan, Sarah's relentless expansions resulted in a beautiful but completely illogical enterprise architecture of her own making. She had the absolute best materials, like gorgeous California redwood and imported oak, but because there was no unified blueprint, the final product is literally a physical manifestation of a chaotic system. Part 3.
The 1906 earthquake.
So the sprawling footprint of the house was eventually about to face the ultimate test from nature. The massive 1906 San Francisco earthquake violently brought the towering 7-story monolith down to just 4 stories. At its peak, this house was so huge it was visible from miles away, but the violent shaking proved way too much for the structurally unbalanced upper floors. They collapsed into ruins, which permanently altered the skyline of the estate forever. After workers finally rescued Sarah from her trapped bedroom, she pragmatically chose to just tear down the vulnerable upper floors, though the continuous building on the lower levels never stopped. But notice her reaction. Instead of viewing this earthquake as a message from angry spirits to stop building, she simply adapted. She had crews clear the debris, reinforce the foundations, and pivoted her endless construction outward horizontally rather than vertically.
Part 4. The real Sarah Winchester. Myth versus reality.
Okay, it's time to strip away the myth of the Mad Widow once and for all, because when you look at historical documents, a very capable manager emerges. For instance, tourists love to point out the bizarre 2-inch shallow stairs inside the house, but they weren't for ghosts. They were actually a brilliant accessibility modification for Sarah's own severe arthritis. She used her wealth to modify her environment, creating custom shallow stairs and installing 3 elevators. What looks like madness to an outsider was actually a highly practical adaptation for a woman with limited mobility. And her wealth was managed incredibly effectively. Out of a $14 million total income over those 38 years, she spent $5 million employing a massive, diverse workforce with high wages for decades, while managing her own legal and business affairs perfectly. She was far from some reclusive lunatic. She paid her workers incredibly well, gave them generous Christmas bonuses, and managed an estate that functioned basically like a small corporation, complete with a massive household staff, groundskeepers, and full-time construction crews. Historical consensus tells us quite clearly, the continuous construction gave Sarah purpose and control. The house became her life's work, her creative expression, and her occupation. There is absolutely zero contemporary evidence that she built the house to appease ghosts. During her life, newspapers simply reported on an eccentric, wealthy widow. The legends of seances and spirits, those only took root as a heavy marketing tactic to sell tour tickets after her niece inherited the property in 1922. So I'll leave you with this to consider. Was the Winchester house really driven by a curse? Or was it simply the ultimate expression of a wealthy, autonomous woman claiming her absolute space in the world? Sarah Winchester had unlimited funds and chose to spend her life as an amateur architect, employing local workers and building a Victorian masterpiece exactly the way she wanted to, without having to answer to anyone. It's a fascinating look at how history is shaped and how reality is often so much more intriguing than the myth. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning the stories you hear.